Here we are covering up the black that will remain black, which will be the stripes. And the purpose of the green tape is because we've aligned the doors and fenders to the body, removed the doors so that we can paint the door jambs, but we left the fenders installed momentarily so that we can attach the green tape to the fender and the body and straight line it to the body, and we can tape off the black for the stripes without having any issues with stripe alignment once we put the doors and fenders on, and paint the black, tape off the black, and paint the front clip of the car, if you will. On this job I'm going to be applying a white primer sealer for a couple of reasons. One, the car is going to be white, and it just makes a whole lot of sense to use a primer sealer that is white underneath white base coat. There are instances where sealing is a bad idea. For instance, if you're going to paint the car yellow or orange or some other color that only covers well over a white ground coat, and you aren't going to panel paint and you are going to be having masking lines, you would see the white sealer at the edge of the masking lines. But since neither of those are the case in this case, and sealer is so much less expensive than white base coat, we're going to be spraying this car with white sealer prior to putting white base coat on. And by doing that, we can cover the car in the color that the car is supposed to be, which is HP Performance White, in 2 to 3 coats of base rather than 4 coats or maybe even 5 at the putting a second coat of sealer on this area of the quarter panel because I had a little bit of a mishap, and I did edit out the F-bomb. I allowed my untucked shirt to contact the wet sealer. I thought I was going to have to sand it. It turns out it actually flattened out quite nicely and didn't even need to be sanded. But I put an extra coat of sealer there so that I could sand the sealer without going through the sealer to remove any evidence of something touching wet paint prior to painting. So that worked out pretty well, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Put an extra coat if you think you're going to need it. If you're going to have to do any sanding, put an extra coat. And working through these snafus is part of what makes a painter a good painter.
Might have enough. Oh shit, maybe. Nothing I can remove, just use base coat. Oh shit.
Now I'm applying the actual color, the base coat. This isn't a primer sealer, this is actual paint. And a lot of times I'll tend to start with some of the more difficult areas to get to, like door hinges and things like that. So I'll normally spend a little time doing that prior to paint, so that when you do paint, you can just kind of paint nonchalantly later on without having transparency issues over those areas where you didn't pay enough attention to. I'm seeing a little bit of streaking on the roof, meaning I didn't get quite heavy enough sealer on the roof, which is not a big deal. All that means is I'll just have to go a little bit heavier on the base coat. So what I do to take care of that is I'll double coat it, and I went to the middle of the roof and then I worked my way back just to get a little bit more paint to compensate for the transparency of the sealer, and all is
play
well.
my music because some crybabies will report it as, I don't know, someone else's content. Entertainless. Working.
Pardon my little rant there, but I do like to listen to music while I work, and it seems every time I post a video of what I'm doing and I'm listening to music in the background, it gets deleted because the music that I'm listening to isn't music that I wrote and played myself. You know, it's like it's White Snake or, you know, Ugly Kid Joe or something, and, you know, YouTube recognizes it, and then they say, oh, you can't, we gotta delete your video, or we gotta mute it out, and this and that and the other, because you don't have any rights to that music, and blah blah blah. What the hell? What if I was just fucking listening to the goddamn radio? Jesus Christ, man. When's the world gonna get real?
You go gym already? Yeah. I did.
Now that the base coat is applied on top of the sealer, of course, I can now remove the fine line tape that was used to create the stripes, and I'll do the same thing on the doors and the back part of the fenders.
Take that left piece off. Now get the tape off, that's right, you clean the tape. Damn.
And now we can clear coat, and we're going to call it a day after 2 coats of clear. Normally with this high solids clear I only put 2 coats, but I really just don't want to have to risk any issues with maybe cutting and buffing too much or something like that, you know, burn through on an edge, because if I did, I'd have to paint that whole entire Hulk again. So I'm going to put an extra coat of clear on this.
I might need that
Not
thing
the
over
door
here.
jambs. I only put 2 coats of clear on the door
Damn.
jambs, 1 coat of clear on everything that doesn't show, but 3 coats of clear on all the exterior panels where I do need to cut and buff.
You got blue. I'll get that off.
What I like about this cup system that I'm using, and I'm not going to mention who makes it because I might get in trouble for promoting or anything. I can't even listen to music while I do my work because it's copyrighted music and all that bullshit. But what I like about this cup system is you can actually measure to the ounce or milliliter or whatever how much product you're using per coat which as a result you can get the measurements down exactly to how much you're going to need, like say for per coat of clear or whatever. If you think you need 40 ounces of clear, you mix up 30, you spray a coat, see how much is left, and you do the math, and then you mix up how much you need to finish the job accordingly, and you waste a lot less. And I used to waste a lot of clear because I would end up overestimating how much clear I'd need, and I'd end up throwing away like 8 ounces of clear, and that used to really kind of piss me off. So I waste a lot less product with this cup system here. Additionally, another advantage of sealer is if you have the sand through down to body filler, you cannot paint over body filler. You can put a primer sealer over it, but you cannot put base coat over it, or you will see it in the end product. So sealer is something I use on a fairly regular basis, not on a complete paint job. I usually use it as a spot type deal on small problem areas prior to paint, but in this case it just makes so much sense to just put a white sealer over this car and use way less base coat to paint this car than I would if I just tried to put white base coat over that gray primer.
Come on. So I'm going to do the door jamb and then the roof, opposite of what I did last time. Ah, shit. All right, Mondo, get ready. Okay, and here on the other side. No, go ahead, set it up. Water? No, yeah. Okay. That's it.